Alright guys, we picked this up. This is a 2014 Ryobi. It's one of the trimmers that come with attachments. This one is the other one. It's a 2014 model, 26cc. And picked it up off a guy that says it hasn't ran in 2 to 3 years, such as been hanging in his garage. Said he had problems with the rope. Said when he put it up for sale, the string wasn't going back in, which it's having some issues. No big deal. It has the 10-inch tiller on it, which was the main purpose we bought it, because we bought it for, I'm going to try to get this thing running and get it together for our local homeless shelter. They have big flower beds out there that they use for fruits, vegetables, flowers, stuff like that. I think it's 8 beds that are, I think it's 8 beds that are 20 foot long, and so it'll work great for them if we can get it running. So far I looked at it, I got it down here, popped the cover off. It does have an air filter in it, so that's a plus. But there's a screw here. For whatever reason, it's loose. The engine's loose on the shaft. A screw there, so let's see what's going on with it. And the carb, everything's working on it. As far as movement, choke's moving, the throttle's moving. The primer doesn't appear to have a hole in it, but the lines are rock hard, and the fuel filter is broke off from the line, so it's definitely going to need a fuel lines. I'll put a new fuel lines on it, new filter on it, and I might have a new primer or purge ball, whatever you want to call it, and if I do, I'll throw that on it. This one, it looks pretty, it's not cracked, but it looks pretty weathered, so might as well do that while we're at it. But yeah, there it is in all of its glory. I'm hoping it goes according to plan, it runs, but then we'll have to get this apart too. Let's see, looks like it's leaking some oil there, so I have to address that also. That should be an easy fix. But according to him, it ran great, and until he started having issues with the string. So it started running a little choppy, which fuel lines could be the issue with that, or the carbs clogged up from losing the filter. And so he hung this one up in the garage, bought a new unit. So we'll go from there, and we'll get all this plastic apart and see what we got. So far we just know we need fuel lines, fuel filter, purge ball, and play with the carb, and I want to get this fixed so you can see if it even has fire. So we'll get it apart and we'll pick it up from there. I want to see the back up around the muffler, and all that, see if we can figure anything out. Alright, so here's where your throttle is. This one's a little bit different. You have a bar here, you got to push this down, and then it unlocks your throttle. So when you got a hold of it, you got to push that down to be able to pull your throttle. I don't want to pull on it because it's got 4 screws that hold this cover on. You get your cover off, put your screws where you're not going to lose them, so you don't get them mixed up, because there's a bunch of other ones that's going to have to come out. So it is actually pretty easy to figure out, but if you're not real familiar with this kind of stuff, this would be the time before you unhook any of this to take something, whether it's a camera, your phone, whatever have you, something that takes pictures. And if you're not real familiar with stuff like this, it'd be the time to take just snap a shot, just so you know how it all goes back together, because it's probably not all of it has to come undone, but your cable for your throttle is going to have to come unhooked to be able to wrestle with all this plastic and everything. As we're going to do not fully disassemble the entire engine, but we're taking all the plastic off so we can look for any potential issues. So it'd be the time to, if you need to take a picture, take a picture. Alright, we're going to get that apart, and then we're going to start on this up here. Alright, here's another important spot when you're separating this stuff. So where your throttle and trigger and everything is, you have your on and off switches up there. So here's 2 disconnects that run up to where the throttle is, and so you have those 2, which should unplug, and your throttle here on your carb. I'll show you. So once you remove this up here, it gives you slack in the cable. Yeah, so it'll help you just unhook it. Now what you want to do, this is another spot if you're not familiar with them, because this one, if it's an OEM carb, this carb has 6 or 7 holes in it. So what you want to do is get to where, let's see if I can get to where I can show you. There you go. You can see the holes in the throttle linkage there. There's your idle screw, and you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but there's like 7 holes. So right here where your cable goes in, that's actually, you can see the 1 hole here on the end, but behind, right on the other side of the throttle adjustment, there is another little hole there. I don't know if I can get it to where you can see it or not. There you go. So you can see what I'm talking about. You got all those little holes. So it's another opportunity to snap a shot so you know exactly what hole that goes into when you go to reassemble this dude. And because this one is pretty dirty, so I'll have to clean it up. So I mean, I'll remember which one it goes in. And some of them don't have wear on them, depending on how old they are. You'll be able to. Sometimes it's obvious where they go, but you know, they're universal. They fit all different kinds of other products, so that's why there's so many different holes. But you want to make sure you get it in the right one. You put too much stress on this cable, this one's already got a little bit of rust and stuff on it. You don't want to get it too tight and pull that throttle and snap it, or when you're putting it all back together, there's too much tension and pops it. But so that's just a small word of advice. Now these, they might be tough to unhook. I tried to get them without breaking them. I don't know, that was easy enough. So there we go. That takes care of that. So now your throttle's unhooked, your off switch unhooked, so then you should be in good shape. Okay, I got it down right there, so we'll get to taking out more screws and we'll disassemble it a little farther. Alright, here she is disassembled. Have the muffler off, it's separated from the case, the tank's off. The carburetor's still on, I didn't take it off. The downside to it is on your pull string, the way the case is set up, you have your hole up, there's no slot for the handle to come out, so you have to snip your string to get your pull handle. To get your pull handle, you got to snip the string, slide it out. So the easiest way I found it, once you slide it out, I just clipped a pair of stats on it just so it doesn't spool up on me. So now you have access to your clutch in case it needs replaced. Which the cool part is that I think they're almost always reverse thread. I thought they were. I'm thinking of chainsaws and stuff. Then this one, it's left-handed thread, so it looks normal. But anyway, so if you have an issue with your clutch, this is perfect time to change it. Yeah, this one's got right on a left-handed thread, so we're good. But it don't look too bad, so I'm not worried about it. But actually, another perfect time to look down into your piston to look for any telltale signs of any issues with like scarring and stuff like that. Busted ring or no ring, or been there. So it looks like it's a single ring piston, and it doesn't look scarred real bad, so it looks like it's in good shape. Looks like it's well oiled, good shape. I can't really see down in it good enough to tell carbon wise, but From what I can see, the inside of the cylinder looks good. The side of the piston looks good. The ring looks like it's intact, so hopefully we're good there. So this is the time for any issues you might have. It's fully disassembled, so it gives you full access to everything. So we'll finish going over it and checking it out, see if we can find any potential problem why it's apart. I'll dig around and see if I can find the that new primer. I have some, and I'm pretty sure I have one this size, so you need to replace it. Now these are pretty easy to do, whether it's all fully assembled or apart or whatever, so I'll dig around, should be able to match it up, and I might take it off. So all you have to remove the carb is you got these two screws right here, that's these two star bits. You take these off, this plastic cover comes off, and you'll be able to fully remove that carburetor. So I may take it off and check it out some, just to clean it up a little bit, get some of the gunk off of it, and look for any potential issues that it might have. So get a little bit farther and we'll fire it back up. You know, the carb is definitely going to need cleaned. I popped the top to replace the primer, purge ball, and some of these, you know, when you take them off, the ring will just come off. Some of them, the whole top comes off. Thankfully, the whole top just popped right off of this one. It's just got a bunch of sediment down inside the screen, so it's definitely going to have to be cleaned up for sure. And if I get lucky, I might have one of these gaskets from one of the kits I bought a long time ago, so I'll have to look in my little stash. It'd be nice to get a new gasket on it too, and then I'll go ahead and take the bottom off and see what we get. So it's definitely going to need cleaned up, blowed out, and I think before it'll definitely ever run right. So that's probably the problem the previous owner was having, because it's pretty dinged up in there. It's definitely got some debris in it, so we have to get that cleaned up, and that should help a lot right there in itself. Other than that, everything came apart pretty easy. So make sure you check. Get these out of the way. The back of your muffler, because depending on fuel grades and stuff like that, these will clog up because it's got all that mesh in there. They can clog up really easy. So you know, heavy usage and a lot of oil, you get all them carbon deposits in there. It can clog it up and cause it to run. Real crappy also. So this one don't look too bad, so I'm not too concerned about it, but we'll dig into this carb a little more and see what we come up with. The carb's all back together, put back on. The exhaust is put back on. For those of you that recognize this, we'll not worry about that being in there. And the recoil, just got it figured out. It was just gummed up. As you can see here, this is where the recoil spring hooks up. So he was right. It wasn't wanting to, when I'd pull on it, it did not want to retract. So where the spring is here, there's an opening that goes into the plastic, so I blasted it with some PB blaster just to break it up a little bit. And now it appears, and watch it make a liar out of me. It's nice, smooth. There it goes. I got it in a bind. I'm not holding it straight. There we go. So that's if it was mounted up. So you can see how it's nice and smooth. So it was just gummed up in there, is all it was. So now I'm getting ready to reassemble the motor back onto the plastic, you know, in the shaft and all that. And hopefully it works. I did have a new purge ball that fit it. Got lucky, found a new carb gasket also that I had in my stash, so that was a bonus. So I'll get back to doing what I was doing. I'm going to clean this clutch and everything up before I put it back in. It's got PB blaster where it leaked out of that cover all over the clutch, so I'm going to get that off there and then start reassemble it back into the case. Here's a little helpful tip for you when you go putting all this back together. These 4 screws up here, you have one here, one to the left, and you have two on top. Those, when they go in, they're going into the plastic spool where your string is at. Here in the center, you can see that hole there. Yeah, this thing, I don't remember a screw being in it, so I don't know if there was actually supposed to be one in it, but that has to be lined up for these four to line up. So I just used a screwdriver to kind of hold it where I needed it to be able to get a screw to start. So just so you know, because I put it together and I was thinking, man, why ain't this thing dropping down? Then got to looking at it, and you can, once you get to looking at it, you can see where you see a hole there, and it actually drops down in there to line up to get these four to start. Because the engine will not slide up into the plastic casing unless that's lined up, because it has to line up for those four to get in there. Then you got your other ones to hold the engine actually in place. So just so you guys know. And our one screw up here, the alignment screw for the shaft, it was loose because it is, where's she at? It is stripped, so I got to figure out something for it. This one here, all it does is it screws into this little one here. You got a little screw, which is this little dude right here. There's a hole there, then it just screws in. When it screws in, it holds your shaft straight for everything else to line up and, you know, perfect sync, but the hole is stripped out. So I'll at least be able to use it long enough to get everything in place, buttoned up. I mean, it was loose before and wasn't falling out, so I might be able to get, I might have a screw that's a little bit bigger in diameter. After I get it all back together, I'll back it out and see if I can get maybe a little bit bigger one to go in its place. So almost there, almost have it all back. So, and once we get it complete, then we'll figure out what's going on with this tine. We'll get the tines off and figure out why the case is leaking oil, like just a bad gasket, but we'll see what it takes to fix that. Alright, she's pretty good ways back together, but we're going to check before I get too much farther and make sure this thing has spark. So we're about to find out together. God, I hope. I'm going to show you this piece on here, and this thing was a job. Oh yeah. Cool. So we got spark. So I'm going to show you the hardest thing. For whatever reason, this is the hardest trigger assembly I've ever done. This thing was freaking brutal. It's getting late, so I'm going to wrap it up with this. And where it's spring, let me get this thing out of this, get it to work and turn it at least. So you got, of course, it's on the other side. But anyway, we got everything else hooked back up. Our wires are hooked up. The throttle linkage is hooked up. New primer on it. All that hoopla. But this dude, because it's naturally they're spring loaded. It's got to be spring loaded to pull your throttle trigger back down. The spring that's in this, it popped off. I didn't realize it popped off, but it's I should have showed you guys. There's no way to, from what I looked, there's no way to keep it from coming off. It's just the design that it is. That thing, for some reason, I'm telling you, it was a bear to get this back together with that springs. It has a piece that sticks up, and man, I'd love to take it apart and show you guys, but this thing is, for some reason, it was brutal to get it back together. But it's a bear, so take your time. If you got to do this to one of these, do not be in a hurry when it comes to that the throttle assembly right here. That's telling you, that spring, I mean, I'm sure not everybody has a hard time with them, but that springs, it hooks, it comes up and goes through the bottom side of your throttle, and then there's a plastic piece where it sticks up. You know, of course they're curled, and it has a piece that goes down, and it's such a tight fit, and even, I mean, the tension is already on it, and you gotta have, and then this piece, I'm pretty sure I got it in the earlier part of the video with this cover off. you take a good look, because it's you can't see the spring. It's underneath the back side of this plastic, and man, that thing, for some reason, it fought me tooth and nail to get this part back together. I mean, it was a bear. So it's getting late, and sometime tomorrow I am going to, I'm stuck in the vise now. I just got to get this cover put back on the back. I'll do that tomorrow. And so like I said, we got the carb cleaned out, new screen put in it, put a new primer ball on it, purge ball, whichever you want to call it, cleaned it up some. And I have a new, I'm pretty sure I have a new air filter for it too. It came with one of the kits. So we'll have a new air filter for it, and I got a couple new spark plugs, and so that leaves us with fuel lines. So when I get time tomorrow, I'll do part 2, and we'll do fuel lines, check out the tines, check out the gearbox, and hopefully we'll get to start this thing up. As saying, it's not in a real big hurry, considering it's February and this thing won't be getting used until springtime when the ground thaws out for those guys to do their flower beds and stuff. So I'll be able to take my time with it and focus on other stuff. But yeah, man, that dude was a bear. But so tomorrow I'll try to make time to get on the gearbox, fuel tank, and man, I hope this thing runs. But when I go to do that, that's when I'll see you. Thanks for watching.